Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Silverstone for qualifying for the first race of the fifth round of the 2017 Euroformula Open season as we head into the second half of the year here on a gloriously sunny day here at Silverstone, the home of the British Grand Prix. So warm welcome from myself, Ben Evans, as the cars head out onto the circuit for their initial sighting laps of this 30-minute qualifying session. So what we can expect to see is the drivers going out on some scrub tyres now, putting in a few laps and then pushing in for quick laps in the second half of the session. Well, leading the charge at the moment there is one of the three new faces on the grid this weekend, and that is Ben Hingley, who, like Cameron Dass and Guillaume Simaya, are graduates of the BRDC Formula 3 Championship, and Ben Hingley running with the Fortec team. Then Cameron Dass, he is with Campos, teammate to Matteo Siorio, who we're just watching now, and then Guilherme Samaya is with the Carlin squad. Field heading out towards the wing pits section of the circuit before heading back through Albion Farm on to Aintree Village and the Loop, and then they will sprint down the Willington Straight, and that will then bring them on towards Brooklands, Luffield and the end of the lap. So that is the challenge ahead of the drivers, and the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit always produces some great racing in the Euroformula Open Championship, because it is, unlike some of the other circuits that we visit, somewhat easier to overtake. Well, in terms of the championship so far this year, it is Harrison Scott who is comfortably the dominant championship leader. The British driver for the RP Motorsport team has been the man to beat. He has won 6 of the 8 races so far this year. His other results for a second place in race 1 at Spa and 9th place at Hungaroring after a penalty in qualifying put him towards the very back of the grid. Second in the standings, it is Nikita Troitsky for the DriveX squad, with Amir Vaidyanathan third in the points. Vaidyanathan just one of 2 other drivers who've won races this year. The Indian driver claiming victory in race 1 at Spa, and then the driver who's 4th in the standings, Thiago Vivacqua for Campos, claiming honours in race 1 at the Hungaroring. So in terms of this pivot point in the championship, because from here on in it gets very busy, we've got 4 rounds across the next 8 weeks. A couple of week hiatus before we reconvene in Monza at the end of September, then on to Jerez 7 days later before it's the last weekend of October where the championship concludes. The circuit to Barcelona, Catalonia, but certainly the rest of them got some ground to make up. We're currently following the man who is 7th in the championship standings. That is Simon Laaksonen for the Campos squad. He's being followed around on track now by Christian Hahn in one of the other DriveX cars, and Hahn, the Brazilian, is currently 14th in the standings. For Simon Laaksonen, he comes into Silverstone having had his best Euroformula Open results of the season to date at the Hungaroring, with a 2nd place finish in race 1 and a 4th place finish in race 2. Christian Hahn also had a fruitful trip to the Hungaroring, 8th place in the 8th race of the season, his second best result of the campaign, his 2nd points finish. So 30 minutes to play with. They're going to go out, they're going to do a few laps now, but more likely than not they will be on scrubbed control compound Michelin tyres, and then they'll come in. There'll be a quiet period on track during the middle of the qualifying session before they then take to the circuit on fresh new rubber, and that's when we'll see the pole position times looking to be set. So for now, the times that are being posted are a little bit artificial. Well, for Matteo Siorio, it's been a somewhat frustrating season for the Brazilian Campos driver. He came into the year very hotly dipped as the dominant reigning Brazilian Formula 3 champion, winning 10 of the 16 races in the championship last year. But so far, his best result actually came in the first race of the year. That was in Estoril, where he took a fine 3rd place finish. For Ben Hingley, this is all a little bit of a voyage into the unknown. This is looking at potentially a step up with the Fortec team to the Euroformula Open for next season. And Hingley looking very impressive in free practice yesterday, immediately on the pace, because this is a circuit that he will know well from testing in the United Kingdom, but also from competition in the BRDC Formula 3 Championship as well. And it's Hinchley who swings into Abbey now, the quick right-hander, then the quick left, as he swings out a farm curve onto the heavy braking point into Village, then the kick around the loop. So we'll see quite a lot of overtaking there, and then again as they swing through Aintree onto the Wellington Straight. Now here is Nikita Troitsky, one of 3 competitors entered by the DriveX team this weekend. The Russian, currently second in the championship standings, but as yet hasn't scored a race victory. Nonetheless, he has been unbelievably consistent. 5 podiums in the 8 races so far, but crucially, he's not been off the podium since Spa-Francorchamps at the end of May. Can Troitsky score first victory of the season today? He has got in his corner Warren Hughes as his driver coach, and Hughes himself, going back admittedly some years, had a lot of success in British Formula 3. The third driver of the DriveX squad this weekend, alongside Troitsky and teammate Christian Hahn, who we follow now, is Tarun Reddy, who's had a slightly frustrating start to the season with the Carlin squad. He switches across to DriveX for the remainder of the campaign, and he's currently 13th. But Troitsky sets the quickest time in the session, but that is immediately pipped by Devlin De Francesco. De Francesco, one of the 3 Carlin entrants, alongside Amaya Weidenathan and Guilherme Samaya. De Francesco, 1 minute 53.529. The very front of your pitch there, you see Pedro Cardoso, one of the Teo Martin Motorsport cars. 2 cars entered by the squad this weekend. So Martinez in the other of them. And Cardoso Martinez currently locking out 11th and 12th place. So the classification is De Francesco from Nikita Troitsky. Then it is Cameron Dass in 3rd, the reigning American Formula 4 champion. And Cameron Dass is currently 4th in the BRDC Formula 3 standings. 1 win already this year for the 17-year-old American. There is a glimpse of Tarun Reddy, who we were mentioning, switching seats for this weekend. And how is that going to result in elevation of the Indian driver's pace? He finished 6th in BRDC British F3 last year. Now here is Devlin De Francesco then. So De Francesco, very quick Canadian racer, looking into sync early on with the Carlin team. He finished 5th in British F4 last year, 3 wins along the way. He's had 2 trips to the rostrum this season so far. They both came in an excellent weekend at Spa-Francorchamps. Had a pretty wretched weekend though last time out at the Hungaroring. A tenacious 8th place in race 1. Again, starting from the back of the grid after losing his best time in qualifying. And that is a little bit of a moment for Amaya Weidenathan. Should rejoin, he's just run wide at Brooklands. And then De Francesco wiped out in a turn 1 instant. Start of race 2 where he's a little bit greedy into the first corner, got crossed up on the grass, and then cannoned into Petru Florescu, eliminating both of them from proceedings. Now, immediately to the top of the times goes Harrison Scott. So Harrison Scott, the championship leader, just posts a time of a 1 minute 51.859, and this has been so often the story of the season as we follow Devlin De Francesco. Is Harrison Scott has been utterly dominant, one of the more experienced drivers in the field at this level, having competed with not inconsiderable success in the Formula Renault 2 Litre Euro Cup. And now Harrison Scott, 6 wins already this year and 1.4 seconds up over the rest of the field. There is Simon Laxonen, and the 18-year-old Finnish driver about to celebrate his 19th birthday over the next couple of weeks. 3rd in standings. He's been quietly getting quicker and quicker as the season has unfolded. It's been an impressive debut year for the driver who finished 11th in the German F4 Championship last year. So here is Harrison Scott, and he's on another quick lap, quicker than anybody else in the session so far through the first sector. We'll see what he can do at the end of sector 2, which is going to cross. There's the white line as he comes out of the loop. on to the Wenton straight, and again quickening anybody else through sector 2. As you can see, he's a quarter of a second up on where he was last time around. So this is potentially going to be a further improvement here for the 21-year-old. Oh, no, it's not. He runs wide and around he goes. Coming through Brooklands, just pushing a little bit too hard. Now, has he lost the engine? Question mark. The car went around. He's looking for a gap in the traffic. Oh, and another driver in trouble. And that is Pedro Cardoso, who has also had an unscheduled rotation. The RP Motorsport team contemplate. Yellow flag still over at Brooklands. That's what our timing screen tells us. It suggests that Scott is on his way now and crosses the line. So at least he's got the car restarted back into the session. Whether or not the same can be achieved for Pedro Cardoso, it can't, because the red flag comes out and brings the session to a temporary halt. And that's the reason why you saw Cardoso stranded in the middle of the road at Club. So here's the moment of Harrison Scott. The car just not biting into Brooklands. He understeered in correction over the curbs and around he went. So that was Scott's moment. Cardoso was stricken over at Club Corner. And there's the marshals going to the aid. That's the teammate, Eliseo Martinez. So he will proceed back around to the pit lane, as with everybody else. Now, in some respects, this potentially puts quite an intriguing complexion on the way that the rest of the session is going to go, because we were just approaching the point in the session where they were all going to be coming in anyway to change onto a new set of Michelin tires to really push for the quick times. But now they potentially have the luxury, a little bit more time in the pit lane to affect that change. So the classification, it is Harrison Scott, who is quickest, with in second place Devlin De Francesco. Third is Ben Hingley, looking very impressive on his debut. Fourth, Nikita Troitsky. Fifth, Thiago Vivacqua. Sixth is Simon Laxonen. Seventh, Amir Vaidonathan. Eighth, Eliseo Martinez. Ninth, Tarun Reddy. 10th, Petru Florescu. 11th, Alex Karkozik. In 12th place, Matteo Siorio. 13th, Yanni Fitchu, but we'll see more from him later on, I'm sure. 14th is Guilherme Samaya. 15th, Ludovico Laurini. 16th, Cameron Das. 17th, Christian Hahn. The rotating and now stricken Pedro Cardoso is currently propping up the times in 18th place. So everyone gets wheeled into position on the pit apron. There is Pedro Cardoso, and for whatever reason, it just doesn't want to fire up and get him back underway. Hopefully that is going to be a fairly temporary state of affairs. It presents a good opportunity for the spectators to take on board a little bit of refreshment, an opportunity for the drivers to take on board a little bit of a debrief from their teams, as Ludovico Laurini peels in to the RP Motorsport pit box, and Harrison Scott just behind, and Scott was absolutely flying. And well, he's in good company of drivers pushing things to the limit here in sessions at Silverstone, because there's the famous story of Gilles Villeneuve on his Formula One debut for McLaren back in 1977, spinning at every turn during the practice sessions as he found the limits. Likewise, the story about Ayrton Senna when he was with the Lotus team in the 1980s, convinced that he could take Stowe Corner flat. Tried it once, spun, came back to the pits. I think it is flat, I just got it a little bit wrong. Tried it again, spun once more, and then conceded that he maybe had to back off the pace just a little bit. So it's going to be a tow for Pedro Cardoso. Hopefully this goes a little bit more smoothly than the moment that we had at Hungaroring, where one of the Teo Marti Motorsport cars under tow was inadvertently tipped up onto two wheels. Debriefs are plenty over at Campus Racing. That's the car of Cameron Das, the American. And so we move towards the second half of the season, an opportunity for lots of drivers to make the step up to these Formula 3 cars, because in the Euroformula Open, everybody is equipped with the Dallara F312 chassis. They've got the control engine supplied by the championship organisers GT Sport. other control components, including that control compound Michelin tyre, but it is step in pace. Now here's another look at it for Harrison Scott. You can see just the aerodynamic grip getting away from him, wheel onto the grass, and around he goes. Frustration, of course, for Scott as he just maybe unsettled the car with a little bit too much of a bite of curb on the way into Brooklands. It bit him on the way out. And this was Pedro Cardoso trying to get back underway. Fetching Mohawk for the Marshal as well. So a slight pause to the session whilst Pedro Cardoso's car is recovered. We'll be racing today at about 2:15 British summertime. So if you're watching us in Europe, then that's going to be at 3:15 your time at live coverage, of course, which you can watch in all the usual places. We'll start about 50 minutes before that with all the build-up on the grid here at Silverstone. Now there is Alex Karkozik, the impressive 17-year-old Polish driver, the reigning Formula Golf champion, who again has been steadily improving as the season has unfolded, was showing a great turn of pace at the Hungaroring at the start of July. Didn't quite convert a very good qualifying position on Saturday into the result, but did take a very solid 5th place on the Sunday. So the car of Pedro Cardoso is recovered to the internal network of roads here at Silverstone. That means that the session is going to restart in just 70 seconds time, and thereafter it's going to be something of a shootout for the remaining 18 3/4 minutes. Thiago Vivacqua deep in concentration, the cockpit of the Campos car. It's going to be interesting to see here because they're all, as you can see there with Lodovico Laurini, they're all going to get new Michelin slicks onto the car now. Although it's nice and sunny today, it's autumnal rather than summery, despite that gentleman taking his jumper off. It is not that warm here at Silverstone, and what that means is it's probably going to take them 2 laps to get the optimum temperature for the Michelin tyre before they can then really press on and push for some quick times. So with 80 minutes to play with, we'll see some cars probably emerging with immediate effect. We'll see others maybe taking the opportunity to pause for a little while. Looks like there's some minor rear roll bar adjustments going on for Nikita Troitsky. Pedro Cardoso explores the rear of his car, just gives it a prod on its way. So the clock starts ticking downwards. We get the green flag to resume the session, but as you can see, they're not exactly hurtling towards the end of the pit lane, because the other thing to bear in mind is we had a fairly heavy shower late on yesterday after testing came to a close. We also had overnight quite a lot of dew. It was pretty cold overnight, so that means the track not quite as rubbered in as perhaps the drivers would like. So it's going to be a case of who's going to volunteer to go out first, set a benchmark, and then see what others can do to try and better it. But for now, the action is all happening in the pit lane, just looking for any other telltale adjustments. I think most people are just waiting for the nod to get underway. For Pedro Cardoso, it's been a somewhat frustrating season at times. He's shown some really great racecraft, and that has propelled him to points finishes in both Paul Ricard and the Hungaroring, but it's more often than not been misfortune in qualifying, which unfortunately has happened again, which has always left him with a little bit of ground to try and make up when the lights go out and we do go racing. So the cars using the more traditional Silverstone layout this weekend, with a start and finish stretch propelling them into Copse Corner at the start of the race. And then that very quick run out of Copse into Maggots and Beckett's, really exhilarating section of circuit, to then come out of Beckett's through Chapel Curve, and then the very, very high-speed run down the hanger straight towards Stowe corner. Again, a very good overtaking opportunity. They'll come out of Stowe, down into the Vale. Heavy braking point there. Another chance to overtake through Club Corner and then through the past the wing pits. The sweeps at Abbey and Farm into the braking zone at Village. And the loop, potential overtaking opportunity there. Out of entry, down the Wellington Straight. Again, you can look to challenge and pass into Brooklands before swinging around Luffield and coming towards the end of the lap. So that is the challenge that's going to confront the drivers at the point at which somebody emerges onto the circuit to look to set a benchmark time. So Harrison Scott, the 1 minute 51.859, a second quicker than the best achieved by Devlin De Francesco. Scott potentially would have gone quicker, but for that spin. As it was, I suspect there's a little bit more to come from the RP Motorsport drive, but the same goes for others, because Mayor Weidenheithen, who's currently in 7th place, well, he is a very, very quick campaigner, and the driver, again, who knows this track well from racing in various British national championships over the past couple of seasons. So racing the Euroformula Open here last year. Yanni Fitcher for the Fortex squad, currently in 13th place, but the German has been getting increasingly rapid as the season's unfolded. So there is Mayor Weidenheithen. Fantastic victory for him. Spa-Francorchamps earlier in the year. One of 3 podium finishes that he has enjoyed in the season to date. And that means that he comes into the weekend 3rd in the standings, admittedly on 93 points, as opposed to championship leader Harrison Scott on 179. So he's got a lot of ground to make up if he does indeed have any chance of pushing through to claim the Euroformula Open title. But we've still got 8 races to run, and the other point to draw out as we move towards the closing stage of the season is that it's the driver's 14 best finishes that count towards the championship. So retirements early in the year needn't necessarily cost you if you close the season in a really, really strong vein of form. So that is how they're all poised. Ludovico Laurini sits and waits. So does Nikita Troitsky. Just looking nice and relaxed in the cockpit. So although it's been now 5 minutes since the session went green again, you can see everybody's waiting to make sure they don't get jumped in the very late stage of the qualifying. There is the car of Ben Hingley. Alongside him is the Romanian driver Petru Florescu, who has done a lot of racing in the United Kingdom over the past couple of years. 6th place in the British F4 Championship last year. 5 victories along the way. And Florescu moving to the Fortec team for the Hungaroring, which rewarded him immediately in terms of pace. He was less rewarded in terms of luck as the weekend unfolded. But this is an opportunity to jump towards the top of the field in this qualifying session. Although, unlike, for example, the Hungaroring, where we were last time round, overtaking here a 3rd or 4th place, 3rd or 4th row grid position isn't necessarily going to completely wipe out your chances of challenging for the race win, because you can carve you out through the field, particularly if you've got a setup on the car that allows you to really push on during the race, take advantage of the slipstream and the tow. Maybe have to hang it out there a little bit through some of the slower corners. Because if you've not watched Euroformula Open racing before, the Dallara F312 car on the Euroformula Open package, relatively speaking, has got a lot more grip than power available to the drivers. Therefore, corner speed, corner exit speed is absolutely everything. And that's why you'll see the drivers pushing so hard through the corners, trying to find the absolute razor's edge where they've got all the grip in the world, but they're just on the balance of overloading that aerodynamic grip and having none whatsoever. was the line that Harrison Scott was balancing. So it's Taron Reddy who is the first driver to venture back onto the circuit. And he is going to be followed by his compatriot, Amaya Vaidyanathan, who runs down the pit lane in the QUALY Motorsport car. There's a few others now beginning to venture back onto the circuit. So this is where the entertainment factor of the session is now really going to pick up. 11.5 minutes to run, a couple of outlaps, and then it's going to be a shootout for pole position. Petru Threscu also ventures onto the circuit, as indeed does Christian Hahn. Matteo Siorio next to head out Simon Laxonen 2. And a wave yellow flag there from the marshal. Just wonder if somebody has possibly stalled going through Copse Corner looking to rejoin the circuit. We'll see if we can get the camera to swing round to the left-hand side, but that wave yellow flag, I think somebody's possibly ground to a halt in the pit lane, and we'll try and pick out who that is. Yes, there you can see there's a roll hoop that's static behind the barrier looking to get on its way, which it does now-ish, and yet they're coming out now. So it's possibly Cameron Das who was in a little bit of trouble, because now suddenly everybody is able to rejoin, but it looks as if the number one Campos car, he possibly got a little bit stuck. So the field winding their way through Maggots and Beckett's, and then the very quick left-hander at Chapel Curve. The road falls away, and then they get propelled on to the Hanger Straight, which can so often be a decisive factor here in motor races at Silverstone, because depending on the direction of the wind, you've potentially either got quite a healthy tailwind to help you down, or you're driving into a fairly stout headwind, which means that those behind you can take full advantage of the slipstream. This then is the braking zone into Vale for swinging through into Club around past the wing pit, and then the sprint on towards Abbey and Farm. That's going to set them up very nicely for the heavy braking zone into the newest section of the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit, which was introduced, I think, for the 2011 season. Sinfield Loop that takes the track away from the former Abbey and Bridge section, which was much beloved of the drivers. This is a slightly more technical section, but nonetheless does really create some fantastic overtaking opportunities along the Wellington Straight and into Brooklands. So there you can see the run down the Wellington Straight. Again, wind direction critical here. They get on the brakes for the left-hander into Brooklands. It's a tempting corner, Brooklands. It's a nice wide entry. You think you can turn in a little bit earlier than you actually can. And then as you come out, you're immediately setting the car up for the never-ending right-hander at Luffield. So we've only got a couple of cars now in the pit lane, one of whom is Harrison Scott. It's the field sprinting through into Copse Corner. And then slight climb up the road over the brow of the crest in the road into Maggots and Beckett's. And I think it's really going to be the lap after this one that we're going to start to see some of the flying times coming in. A 1:51.859 on behalf of Harrison Scott is the time that they're looking to beat. I think we would expect to see that being surpassed fairly early on in this sequence of flying laps, but it's then how many really quick laps can they get out of that Michelin rubber. As Devlin De Francesco picks up the throttle, sets off in pursuit of teammate Gehelm Seimer. as he heads towards Abbey. Again, one of those corners where driver fitness is absolutely key, because really high lateral G-force, high-speed turn-in, high-speed swoops, and then getting compressed down into the seat in the heavy braking into Village. Just accelerating on his way now, Devlin De Francesco out of Aintree onto the Wellington Straight. And De Francesco already on this lap, setting his personal best middle sector of the session so far. So we're about to start to see the flying laps coming in as we move towards the concluding stages of this 9th Euroformula Open qualifying session of the season. And Di Francesco picks up throttle now through Woodcote across the line. And this may be his best time of the session so far. We'll see. It's not. It's a 1 minute 53.2. So he now swoops through Copse Corner. Up the road ahead of him, teammate Emir Weidenathan has just gone third with a 1 minute 52.8. As Di Francesco picks his way through this first sector on the lap. Let's see where he is pace-wise as he comes out onto the hanger straight. Weidenathan's just on a 33.3, so he is posting his best sector. For Di Francesco, a 33.2, so a little bit up on teammate Weidenathan. Also going well is Christian Hahn. He's just on a 33.4 through the sector as we follow the Brazilian. As he comes on his way now. Here is Harrison Scott. And Scott waiting a little bit longer in the pit lane than his rival. So he, in terms of track position, is potentially going to be informed what the cars in front of him on the road are able to achieve as he is out on quick lap. So he heads into another flying lap. But we're going to see a glut of improvements here. Weidenathan through the middle sector of 48.7, so that's his personal best. Waiting to see what Devlin Di Francesco and Ben Hingley can offer us. Di Francesco slower, 49.0. So he's unlikely to topple Harrison Scott with his lap, Di Francesco. Nor is Emir Weidenathan. Another driver on a good lap is Matheus Iorio. As Cameron Das comes through, he goes fourth, 1 minute 52.9. Weidenathan crosses the line, a 1 minute 52.4 to go second, within 0.6 of a second now of Harrison Scott. We continue to follow Scott, who is not on a flying lap at the moment. But the driver who's absolutely flying is Ben Hingley. Let's see if we can pick up the number 19 Fortec car, because Hingley is into the final sector now, as Devlin Di Francesco goes third, Matheus Iorio fourth, Cameron Das is fifth, but it's Ben Hingley who's going very well. So is Alex Karkozic, who's just done the best middle sector of the session. So Martinez goes fourth with a 1 minute 52.6, as Ben Hingley goes second, a 1 minute 52.2. So the order is currently Scott, Hingley, Weidenathan, Di Francesco, Martinez, Iorio, Das, Vivacqua, Troitsky, and Florescu. But that's going to change imminently. Here comes Alex Karkozic. There he is, the number 11 car, and Karkozic goes second, a 1 minute 51.9, just 57 thousandths of a second adrift of Harrison Scott. And now the session really crackles into life. 3.5 minutes to run, and it's turning into the shootout that we thought it might be, because the timing screen in front of us is lighting up in blue and purple, which means that everybody is improving. There's Nikita Troitsky at the front of your picture, driver who's second in the championship. Just behind him is Terry Reddy. Then it's Alex Karkozic, who qualified superbly at the Hungaroring. Couldn't quite convert it in the race. He's got another opportunity. That said, he's bottled up a little bit behind Terry Reddy, so he's not quite as quick through sector one. Devlin Di Francesco, meanwhile, elsewhere on the track, is on a good lap. So is Eliso Martinez and Petru Florescu. Yanni Fittia still a little bit off the pace as Karkozic backs out of that lap. Harrison Scott also on a good lap, and he is currently the quickest of the drivers through the first sector, currently circulating. We follow Ludovico Laurini, and Laurini currently in 11th position in the third of the RP Motorsport entries. As Yanni Fittia comes past us into 14th, Simo Laxonen only in 15th, Guilherme Samaya in 17th. So you can see the standings to the left-hand side of your picture. Scott, Karkozic, Hingley, Martinez, Weidenathan. We've had a time deleted for Laurini, so he now plummets to 17th place. He's not looking as if he's going to improve particularly over the course of this lap. Harrison Scott, that pole position mark, just 57 thousandths of a second. And the lap that Scott is currently on looks unlikely that the Brit is going to improve on that. As Laurini wrestles the car through Maggots and Beckett's. Harrison Scott does improve his time, so Scott reasserts at the front of the field, a 151.727, almost 2/10 clear of his rivals. Karkozic is second, Ben Hingley is third. Here is Eliseo Martinez, and Martinez doing a brilliant job at the moment. He is fourth in the times, a 1:52.4. It's 0.7 of a second adrift of pole position. That time potentially at risk at the moment from Matheus Iorio, who's on the quick one in 8th place. But otherwise, he may well be looking good for a very elevated grid position when we do go racing later, because we've got under a lap time left in the session now. So I think that Thiago Vivacqua and Eliseo Martinez are going to sneak an additional lap out of this session. The likes of Alex Karkozic, as he turns through Village now, it's going to be much more on the bubble. Karkozic currently in second. Now here is Harrison Scott, the pole sitter, and the driver who is absolutely flying. He's just set the fastest first sector of the session altogether. Comes the end of sector 2, sets the fastest second sector of the session as well. Half a second up on his best time, and this is going to absolutely detonate the rest of the field as Harrison Scott gets on the brakes for Brooklands. This is where it all went wrong mid-session. The clock ticks to 0, and this time Scott nails it into Luffield. The car fights for grip as he turns through the right-hander, now picks up the throttle, accelerating towards Woodcote. Harrison Scott, he's going to take pole position, but by what margin? As the flag goes out, Scott crosses the line, a 1:51.1, 3/4 of a second up on the rest of the field for Harrison Scott. That is a fantastic lap from the championship leader, continuing his dominant form as the summer break comes to an end. Now, what about the rest of the order? Because it's not altogether settled just yet. It's still Karkozic in second, Ben Hingley in third. Fourth is Eliseo Martinez, fifth Matheus Iorio, sixth Amir Weidenathan, seventh Nikita Troitsky. He will be disappointed with that Troitsky. He would have been hoping for more, but the Drivex team possibly going the wrong way with setup for this qualifying session, because his teammates are also some way down the pecking order. Devlin De Francesco goes fourth now as he takes the flag, 1:52.4. So the Carlin driver, still though, 1.2 seconds adrift of pole. To improve and hasn't yet taken the flag. Laxton has done his personal bests through the first 2 sectors. So we follow Harrison Scott around to the pits, but Laxton doesn't improve as he takes the flag. So a fascinating qualifying session for the 9th race of the Euroformula Open season. Harrison Scott dominating on pole by over 3/4 of a second. Alex Karkozic in second, Ben Hingley in third, Devlin De Francesco fourth, from Eliseo Martinez, then Matheus Iorio, Amir Weidenathan, Nikita Troitsky, Cameron Das in 9th, Semir Laxonen in 10th, ahead of Taru Reddy, Christian Hoan, Guilherme Simon, then Petru Frescu 14th from Thiago Vivacqua, who'll be disappointed with 15th. The same for Yanni Fittia in 16th, Ludovico Laurini in 17th, and Pedro Cardoso in 18th after the mid-session maladies that brought out the red flag. So a fascinating race in prospect later on as well, because for Harrison Scott, will this be victory number 7 of the season? If it is, the march towards the title really continues. Scott peels in towards the Ray Bridge, handshake from the RP Motorsport engineer. Scott pops off the steering wheel, vacates the cockpit. We can remind you that we will be going racing at about 2:15 local time later on today here at Silverstone. Do make sure that you watch the action live in the usual places. So run down the classification then. Harrison Scott, pole position. Alex Carr, Kozik's RP Motorsport teammate, shares the front row with him. Ben Hingley on his debut, an excellent third, alongside Devlin De Francesco on row 2. Eliseo Martinez, great drive to 5th from Mateus Iorio, Emir Weidenathan and Nikita Troitsky. A lot to do for both of them on the 4th row to keep the championship fight alive. Taryn Reddy in 11th place on his debut for the Drivex team. Guilherme Seimer, 13th place, ahead of Petro Florescu, Tiago Vivacqua, Yanni Fitcher, all of whom will have a lot to do come racing. So that's it for the Euroformula Open qualifying from Silverstone. We will see you just after 2 o'clock today as we go racing for the 9th time this season.